The longevity of a business owner is their ability and their confidence in themselves to be able to say, I can do this and I can overcome obstacles.
Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Season 5, with a friend of mine who I've known for almost 20 years, Toofan Toghyani from Xeno Entity. Welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Tell us a bit about Xeno Entity. How did it start? I know you're obviously an amazing architect. You guys do amazing work. Tell us a bit about that journey.
My brother was working for a practice in Carlton. I was working for a firm in the city on a joint venture on high rise in the city, in Lonsdale Street, in fact. And at the time we were in Toorak, and he was complaining about how he wasn't happy working for a practice. He wanted to sort of have more freedom, creativity and whatnot. And I saw a sign across the road in Toorak Road, Toorak Village, and said for lease. Wasn't sure what size it was or anything else like that. I said to him, we should call that number.
Was that the same day? Or was that shortly after you just saw it and it all started to make sense?
Well, no, I mean, it was just a moment where, you cross that mental barrier in that you think to yourself, I can do this myself, as opposed to having to rely on somebody to make sure that you got bread on the table, you know? And so I said, we should call that number. He was dumbfounded, he was looking at me, and, it goes from there. We called the number. We got a tiny little office. It was just one room in Toorak Village. Started building clientele. I was kind of doing a little bit of work for clients in Toorak. Was a little extension and whatnot, some design ideas. And it just started growing from there. And we hopped from that little room into a much bigger office in Carter's Avenue. And then we hopped again to this premises here where we are for now 5 years.
So obviously you're an architect. Tell us a bit about some of the projects you worked on. How did you get into architecture?
Yeah. Well, look, originally because I have a fascination with music, I'm also a musician. But anything to do with sound, music, speakers, I loved. I, in fact, wanted to actually become a sound engineer and design speakers. But it was an interesting story what happened back at uni. When my brother was actually selecting his subjects, I was made an offer for architecture, and because we do everything together. We did everything together. We still do a lot of things together, including our business. And I was made an offer for architecture. So at the time, I thought maybe this is a sign and I should just go into architecture and we continue doing
Because you were
together.
creative, they thought you would be good at this field?
Well, look, no, to be honest, at that time, I suppose I knew I liked music. I wasn't sure about my creativity. It was something that sort of qualified itself throughout the process of, sort of going into architecture and doing architecture and then developing my music and doing concerts and whatnot and composing music. To this day, in fact, I had a meeting with new clients this morning and they said, oh, you're very creative. It's really interesting because I don't ever sit down and think to myself, I'm very creative. It's not like that. It's when you do what you do, you just kind of go on emotion. And whatever it is that comes out is what it is. And so other people see it as creativity. You are just doing exactly what you would do.
What you love and you're passionate about. But
Yeah.
that's a very, people that are right-brained and they're very creative, that are musicians in the arts and crafts or an architect like that, they have that ability.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might take that for granted because you're so good at it, but other people might see that and walk in and go, wow, this person's actually creative.
Yeah, look, it's flattering when you're told that you're creative and you got talents and whatnot. Of course, it helps your business, especially if you're in the field of architecture that's also partially art and construction knowledge and engineering and whatnot. But to be honest with you, to be able to be where we are, we had to cross some serious obstacles in that when you choose a place like Toorak to start your business in architecture, the expectations are very high. And if you want to start designing in Toorak, you need to really believe in yourself and you need to project forward as to what it is you're capable of doing later, not right at that time.
Why?
Because, you'd have a potential client come and see you. And so their first question is, what have you done? Who are you? How do you think you can help me design an amazing super home in Toorak when there are so many other people with experience? And so I remember I had to cross that mental barrier once again and keeps telling them that I haven't been an architect for 25 years. I don't have a name like others, but that's not proof of my inability to design as good as them. It is your inner belief that drives you
You
forward.
can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, sometimes you even don't believe it. In fact, I heard there was a quote or a video that was made by Anthony Hopkins, and he said, you need to sit there, and even if you don't believe you can do it, you keep telling yourself you can do it, and you tell everybody else that you can do it. That's the power of the word. And so I kept telling them, I said, I can design better than them. We can design better than them. But and they kind of would rock back in their chair and look at you and think, oh, I don't know if I can trust this, but I definitely appreciate their confidence. You win some, you lose some, but you just continue on the journey and you persist and persist and persist until you can prove it.
And you grow.
Absolutely. And when you're a business owner, that confidence level needs to also rub off on your staff to a certain extent, because any staff member that starts with a new business or a small business, they want to have security. They want to know that the people that are driving this business have the ability to win business, to keep them safe, to keep their
maintain employment, increase their opportunities,
absolutely,
to make sure their career's in good hands.
Absolutely. These are all the things that go, and you need to have that mental steadfastness in a business, not only when you're starting, but continuing to do so, because there are so many challenges that are thrown your way. Do tax laws change? Your accountants change? They advise you one thing. You need to. The decision making is so important, and so if you don't have the ability to confidently make a decision by seeking advice from multiple different people, not only one person, and if you don't have that confidence level, you fall apart. The longevity of a business owner is their ability and their confidence in themselves to be able to say, I can do this and I can overcome obstacles.
So it's to become nimble as well. Now, obviously, we were talking last night, you went out and you've got people that obviously guide and advise you, and people that are very influential and very successful. Because I think, well, at least in my career, that's played a big part, having the right coaches and the right mentors and having a lot of personal development, because I feel people that have walked that path. And if you go back to your start of your story, here you are about to go into a market, getting an office in Toorak, and you are competing against people, as you said, with a lot of experience that have the runs on the boards, and you have to believe in yourself to crack through that market. What advice would you give someone that's going into a field with not much experience, that have to prove themselves in a pretty hot market, like a Toorak market as an architect? It would be pretty heated.
Look, there are multiple facets to this subject. I think to be a successful business owner, one, you need to, well, there's so many different answers to this. One of the most important things one needs to do is to make sure that they are personable. They don't go into a business thinking, I've got this sorted, I'm a business owner, I'm right all the time. If a customer is happy, if they're not happy, too bad, keep going. You need to be personable. You need to take care of people. You need to become friends with people. Number two, you really need to, as we discussed, you need to get advice from as many people as you can. You don't need to qualify them to say, I can only get advice from this person because I respect them in that field. You could get advice from somebody that you don't think they're obviously they're not in the field, or nor do you think they will come up with a good idea, but it is just the amalgamation of everything that you're told, which you filter through your mind and you select what suits you. The third most important thing I think in business is that you need to start being safe with business as far as finances. I didn't start this business thinking, I'm going to get these many projects, I'm going to put on 25 staff, and I'm going to design a multi-million-dollar office, and I'm going to start off impressing everybody and making sure that everybody that walks through the door compares me and I can qualify against the other people in Toorak. I started off slow and I started off small. So I didn't throw every bit of money that I had at this, so that I can actually have that financial energy to roll me forward too. Otherwise, it could take a few months. I could be broken. I'll be out of there. I'll be heartbroken, and I'll go and work for another company again.
Okay, so understand. So work within your financial means.
Absolutely.
So in summary, Be good with people, so you're personable, so you're approachable. You don't know it all. Surround yourself with a good team to empower them. Number two, get a lot of advice, business mentors or people that you might ask questions.
Absolutely.
And third, obviously, have the financial backing. I've had a lot of people say that to be able to execute your vision and your purpose. But also, as you said, it's making your team feel safe that, hey, he's got this, we're in good hands, we're going to grow. Doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes.
Of course.
And also, I think the most important thing that I found in my journey is just get started. Just get started, get better, a little bit better every day, keep improving, keep evolving, and your relationships will grow. You'll meet more people, you'll get better, you become more proficient, and you can just keep expanding those.
Yeah, and don't be heartbroken if you have a bad week, bad month, bad few months. There was a point I remember about 10 years ago where my brother and I kind of sat in our office in confidence without the staff seeing or hearing what's going on. And we put a timeline on it. We said, look, if this keeps going the way that it is, for another 4 or 5 months, we might consider closing it down. However, after that conversation, it wasn't a situation where I'd go and just sit behind my desk and look at YouTube until somebody knocks on the door. I picked up the phone to every estate agent I knew. I said, can I come and have a coffee with you? Can I have a conversation with you of how we can help you, how you can help us? Cross referral. It's being active, being proactive in situations where things are slow, things don't look up. You need to actually push it up if it's not.
Of course.
So.
And it's actually very, very, it coincides with the times now that people are saying business is very tough.
Yeah.
Even though they're very, very busy, it's a hard busy, they're non-tolerable productive tasks. So you're working hard.
Absolutely.
You're working 3 times as hard to generate a sale. So in my case or in my industry, it's so much tougher, which means you just need to roll up your sleeves and put in the work. Now's when you need to show up.
Absolutely right. And don't expect that the time you're putting in, you're going to get the result instantly. It's about kind of land banking your efforts, in that I would sit down with, even if I believe a client is coming in and seeing me is not going to engage us to do their project, I still invest in getting to know them, becoming familiar with who they are, what projects they do, giving them that time so that 5 months, 6 months down the line, when maybe the market is looking better, feeling better, they'll come back to us and they'll have that conversation about actually doing their project.
So basically, it's like you said, it's playing in business. People understand it's a long term, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And building that relationship, it might not be now, it might be later.
Yeah.
But furthermore to that, they might have a friend. They might have a relationship.
100%.
Like it's the amount of relationships that I've started through just asking a question through a mutual person, which we know, which opened a door, which could have generated a lead, a sale, a business partnership relationship, is unbelievable. Just ask the question.
Your best advertising are your clients. Every client we've ever been given or had has come from word of mouth. We've never even had a AdWords campaign on Google ever. All we rely on is to make sure every client is happy. And there are challenges. Sometimes clients, customers have expectations that aren't realistic. Some may turn out to be unfair. It's not about that. It's not about, in business, it's not personal. What it is that you need to see your business as a living entity, if you like. It's like a little baby. You got to take care of it. And so when you put it in a broader sort of spectrum and picture, you don't think about, I'm offended by this, or I personally don't like what this guy is doing to me, or he or she are doing to me. You think about what the picture is, what the business is. You got to take care of the business. You got to keep this thing alive. And so you find a way to make sure, whatever way that is, to make sure that they're happy and that they will go on to say positive things about you.
Of course. And always, and based on my experience too, there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be errors. As long as you own up to it, it's there and you fix it. Things go wrong in business, things go wrong in life. It's just how do you show up to fix them? Yeah. And obviously in the field that you're in, obviously is very, very competitive being in architecture. Tell us some of the projects you have worked on. Now that you do have that 20-year history, it's a lot easier to walk into a client now because you can actually show a body of works.
Absolutely, yes.
Tell us some of the things that you've worked on, some of the projects you were proud to complete.
Look, we obviously started off just sort of doing extensions, renovations to beautiful homes until the time we started designing those beautiful homes ourselves. And the challenge with architecture is that you can design, for example, 10 houses, and only one or potentially two, if you're lucky, gets built the way you designed it. There's so many different factors that come into it, such as the
Variations
budget,
and stuff.
variations, budgets, market changes. Like right now, construction costs has gone up so much. People that were actually planning to do construction now have put it on hold and whatnot. So there are multiple factors that go into it. Couples get divorced, unfortunately. Their circumstances change. And so some get built. So effectively what happened was we were doing extensions, renovations, beautiful homes. And then we got to start designing these beautiful homes. Beautiful homes meaning that, they're very top-end luxury. They're located in affluent suburbs. They have all the luxuries that you could possibly imagine that goes into a home. The finishes, fixtures and fittings, the general architecture of it is high caliber. And so eventually they started getting built. We call them super homes and mega homes. And sometimes we get clients that are sort of very successful, or in some cases celebrities, and we'd love to talk about them, but
you're not allowed to, so
yeah, you're not allowed
privacy or non-disclosure.
And so there was one house that we've designed, and I can tell you it'll be a dream of any sort of architect working in this sort of density of architecture, meaning single homes, to have that sort of home under their belt and be able to market it. We can't even have the render of that building when we first originally started designing it on our website, let alone a picture of the house.
Wow.
And this and our client is an amazing client. We have ongoing work with them and we respect their privacy. But obviously we've done some houses that we're very proud of, and all that information is on our website. So.
That's amazing. So obviously it is like a child that you walk past and you say, wow, I was a part of creating something so beautiful. What do you think is important when creating a great home?
Oh, look, the very most important thing is that, one of our houses was going on Australia's Best House. And they said, the question was, why do you think this house is Australia's best house? I said, look,
It's a great question.
Yeah. Look, there's two ways of answering that. You can load your gun with ego and say,
me.
yeah, of course, I designed it, look at it, it should. But that's not what it's about. House is a home, and it needs to make sure that the reason why I'm distinguishing between a house and a home is that home is much closer to a family's heart. It needs to function as a home, a family home. And all these houses we designed, they're family homes. They're very large homes, so they're effectively family.
How big are they, Sandy?
Look, for example, if the house I was talking about, which I can't talk about,
yeah, but I'm just saying some of the ones you worked
up
on,
to about 3,000 square meters internally. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah.
Some of them 300 square meters.
300
more
squares.
Than 300. Yeah, 300 squares. Yeah, more than 300.
Yeah, more than 300 squares. Yeah, and this house is, I know that if it ever surfaced as a potential sale or potentially being used for shooting a film in there, it would 100% be used. In any case, but the point I was making was, what makes a house a great house is that it serves its purpose for what it's meant to function as. If it's a family home, it needs to function as a family home. If it is more of an entertainer's home, whether it's an executive couple, they want a spare room to be able to have their friends come and stay over, but they have extensive entertainment areas, it needs to function as that. So number one is function. Number two, it needs to have the architectural aesthetics and interior design aesthetics that as much as possible is timeless. You can always design houses that are kind of amazing looking for 3-4 years, and then it kind of falls off the radar.
Because they're what's trending at the time. Is
exactly
that why?
Right. And so our aim has always been to be able to sort of retain some sort of an anchor to classical architecture as much as possible, in that even if you're designing a contemporary home, you design it in a way where it kind of has elements that are sort of like classical charm, and that keeps it within that timeless realm. But also don't get too excited about what is trending at the time as far as finishes and colors and whatnot, and you run and use those, and then 3-4 years down the line,
you're toast.
They're gone. Yeah.
So it's obviously very, very important points. keeping, or whether it be neutral or earthy colors that are more appealing to a majority of the people for a longer time.
Absolutely, and simplicity in design. Less is more. Everyone says that.
I love that, but it's a lot of people say that, and I always remember, I love this saying, simplicity and humility are the hallmarks of greatness, and I always remember that in my head.
I agree with that.
Doing something simply
Yes.
and making it clean is very, very hard to do. It sounds easy.
Yeah.
It sounds tough. It's something I've always had a challenge with even with your business messaging and your marketing, is something I'm always fascinated with, because less is more,
Yeah.
but it's hard to come up with that right amount of less for it to really.
Well, look, yeah, it was an interesting situation a couple of days ago. One of our clients was asking us whether we should go for a more dominant stone slab for their kitchens, as in it had more.
Like a darker, you mean?
Well, I mean, it's not only the colors. I mean, if you go for a marble, it's the whole of the stone. It's like a piece of art, the all natural. Each piece is unique. And so, this was more dominant in pattern and color and whatnot, as opposed to what we had selected, which was a much more subtle finish. So what I said to them was, look, if you have the ability to design architecture or interiors that have a lot to say with the actual form itself, you don't need to go overboard with the actual colors and the finishes, because the form itself is beautiful. And if the form is beautiful, form that is beautiful is always beautiful. You can't say, oh, that was beautiful, that shape was beautiful 4 years ago and I don't like that shape anymore. A classic car, for example, a Ferrari Dino, is always beautiful because it's got this timeless design. It has those curves. It all comes back to the psychology of architecture, in that Freud was talking about how what we as human beings find beautiful has roots in nature. So the beauty in nature is the ultimate beauty because it's timeless. So if you we talk about cars, we talk about, the back of a car, we're talking about the chairs, we talk about its arms and its legs. We relate everything to even the cars. People say, oh, look, I love the way the eyes of the car, the front headlights. We refer everything back to nature. And so if you find something that's organic in shape or form, it's going to be timeless and it's going to be beautiful forever. You don't need to supplement it or over supplement it with finishes and colors in order to make it beautiful.
So what you're saying back, it's the simplicity of the design or the form would make it beautiful. You don't need to go overboard, more crazy with the colors or the design. Is that it?
Of course. Yeah, you don't need to go overboard, because that is when designs will date, because, everyone would run down to E&S Trading or any sort of shop, and they look at the taps that are all in brass and sort of rose gold and whatnot, because it's trending right now, and they think by adding that to their house, it's going to make the house beautiful. I don't believe that. I believe you'd go for a chrome tap. Not in every case, but generally speaking, you go for a chrome tap that's always been around, or a brushed nickel. That's a finish that's been around for a long time. But what you do is you create a setting where this chrome tap would fit in nicely.
Which is the form you were referring to.
Exactly right. So, the island bench of a house, I don't need to go and spend enormous amounts of money on onyx to sort of cover it with in order to make it amazing. The form and the shape of that island bench, if it is nicely designed, and the form, like a Ferrari Dino, is timeless, then it will look amazing. The tap doesn't need to be rose gold to say, hey, look at me, and make a statement by the color of the tap.
I guess segueing into one of your favorite things to talk about, which is obviously music.
Yeah.
It makes the difference with how can certain songs you could heard 20 years ago, they're still great, and are timeless songs that aren't good for 6 months or a year. They're like fads where they go away. There's certain, and I'll show a few of my favorite musicians. People like, you look at George Michael, you look like Prince, their music, Michael Jackson, would be ageless. Absolutely. Or timeless, because in 10, 20 years, people still listen and go, wow, this is a great album.
Yeah, and there's that song, I think Lola or something like that.
Yeah, that we used to sing all the time.
Yeah. That song is timeless. I mean, every time
we used to sing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's an old joke, the 20 years.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right, Chris, in that, if I'm not cutting you short.
No, absolutely not.
Look, if you look at the most iconic song by Michael Jackson, right, and you listen to him talking about creating a Billie Jean, the actual beat itself, right, and the bass line is so simple, And that's what holds it together. It's that simplicity. And so it doesn't matter how many generations listen to that. That beauty of that music and that rhythm and that tempo and the bass line is always there. No one can say, I don't like it. It's beautiful. It will always be beautiful. Yeah, I mean, generations could go by and then his songs may not be marketed as much as other people at the time. But if it was surfaced and somebody listened to it, I don't think people can disagree that it's, obviously people have taste and it's subjective, but anything is within the art realm, And so, yes, absolutely. I think in music, it's the same in that if you truly inject emotion, sincere emotions into whatever it is that you're doing creatively, it's going to come across as that. Where people talk about mom makes food, it's not just her ability to cook the food.
It's the love she puts in the food.
It's the love that she puts in the food. I think it's true. It's energy. I believe in energy.
Well, of course. And you can tell when people design stuff, and when you look at, I just came back from Dubai, and I see the most modern buildings being built. Then you go people like Paris, and I walk around, and I'm just in awe. I love architecture, as you know, I always have. I walk around in London, I just look at the buildings, and I just say, wow, these things are beautiful. These buildings, these creations.
Absolutely.
And you go to Dubai, and it's like the most modern, craziest buildings you've ever seen.
Yes.
Then you pluck you out of
Absolutely.
going to London, going to Paris, and you walk around the city and go, or if even if you're going to Spain, you see the castles and the things they're building. I just sit there in awe and go, wow, how did they create and build such beautiful architecture, such beautiful buildings?
Yeah, there is an embedded energy in that. I totally believe that.
That's what I think.
Look, we know that everything is made out of matter. What's matter made out of? Cells. Cells are made out of all molecules. Molecules have got atoms. The atoms have got the electrons or the nucleus, and it's got an outer orbiting electron. I mean, I don't want to sort of play chemistry teacher here, but every tiny little atom has got a vibration.
It's all energy.
Right? It's all energy. So one of the greatest things I heard was, how do you know if you like this book or this color or Chris or Toofan? It's because
energy attracts you, like attracts like a magnet.
Because my energy harmonizes with your energy. And that's when I say, I like that. Or I like Chris. Or I like this book. Or I like this color. I like this fabric. When that harmony is created, then you say, I like or dislike. And so I think the energy is present in everything. And if us as human beings, if we carry energy with us, I mean, without sort of going too deep into this, but, and you create things and you're surrounded by objects and you pass on the energy and that vibration sort of carries through. I totally believe that old architecture, old buildings, old cities carry this energy. You go there and it just takes your breath away. Exactly. And you feel it. And you can't explain exactly what it is that's happening to you. But
you see it, understand it, and feel it.
Absolutely. And if you're, for example, in Dubai, yes, you can respect and look at a building and say, oh, this is amazing as form, as engineering, as a project and whatnot. But it, for me, doesn't have the same effect at all when you compare history or anything that comes out of history or classical architecture or classic cities or cities. Yes, I agree with you.
Now, Toofan, I've really enjoyed our conversation, Chad. I hope our audience and listeners have enjoyed as much as me. Are you ready for our quick fire questions?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's go. Breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast?
Dinner for breakfast.
Do it yourself or hire a professional?
Both.
Jeans or dress pants?
Jeans.
Pop or rock music?
Pop.
First thing you think of when you wake up?
How can I make this day better than yesterday?
I didn't say a lot. Camping or clamping?
Camping.
Luxury hotel or backpacking?
Luxury.
Ice cream or cake?
Ice cream.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
One book that you've read that's influenced you positively in your life?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't read books at all. I've never read a book. I prefer to listen to books, like as in documentaries, or mostly documentaries, or listening to books. And one of the greatest books that I've read is How to Think Like a Monk.
By Jay Shetty.
That's right.
Indeed. Great book. Got another great book. I don't know if you've heard it or read it. It's called Your Path to Wealth Brick by Brick by Chris Christoph. You'll get a copy of it today. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower, to make everybody love each other unconditionally.
That's beautiful. Now, last one. This is a tough one. A scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
9.
We'll take it. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll stay tuned.